it actually indicates to us how quickly you've gotten a grasp of the market, because you mentioned about the fact that terminology-wise, Southeast Asia is branded as an area, but in reality, it's a completely non-homogeneous market. Different cultures, different languages, different religions, and each country is unique to its own, and which is why it's always been considered one of the final frontiers in terms of growth and potential. So it's good to hear that from you, and you've picked it up so fast. What we wanted to hear from you as well is the technology that you are looking to roll out from both the Hocoma and Motec front within the region. Within the bounds of not sharing too much, what are your plans? If we could maybe focus the discussion on the key markets within the region, Indonesia, Malaysia, for example, Thailand, Philippines.
Yeah. Well, it depends a little bit what kind of perspective you take. Do you look at the countries, or do you look at the developments they're in? And in my first month here, I basically looked at, you have developed countries, Singapore, Hong Kong, Korea, Japan, and you have less developed countries. But that's actually what I realized, that's not the right approach. You have to look at individual development. So we're not Europe 10 years behind. Definitely not. Of course, there is some awareness, some technology that we can still bring in that is not known here. But Asia is also just skipping steps.
Yep.
So we are far behind with mobility, the mobility apps, for example, which is still lacking in Europe. So where do you see the markets going, and each development, each country developing? So, for example, we have classified three markets at the moment, which is inpatient facilities. So basically 80% of the patients will stay overnight. We have outpatient, which I mentioned is not really existing yet in Asia, except for Australia, because outpatient treatments are provided by inpatient facilities, and you have the home market. So you have to look at all those different markets to fit your solutions to. So if you look at our products at the moment, they're primarily aimed at neurorehabilitation, which is primarily done in inpatient facilities. It's like early rehab, it's expensive, but we also have products for outpatient. And we even have some products for home use. And if you look at the total growth of the market, we expect that outpatient and the home use will eventually be much bigger markets. Like in Europe or US, not many years ago, you spent more than a year in hospital when you had a stroke. In the US, they kick you out now after 10 weeks, and you're on your own. So it's very important that you have good outpatient care. In the US and Europe, we all aim for an independent life because we don't have the Asian culture of family takes care of family. But in Asia, I guess you just end up on the couch with your family, which is not necessarily a bad thing, but it's different for your product's positioning.
It is.
So in general, what are we going to offer and which direction are we going? From a neuro rehab perspective, we want to cover the whole continuum of care, from your incident to home, close up to even assistive devices. We want to expand to other regions like orthopedics, so move a little bit away from neuro, but also cover other regions. But another big thing what we're doing is invest in services. And the services, I'm not only talking about technical support, trying to make the equipment run, but talking about education. And not only education on our products, which is quite obvious, but education and awareness in general in Asia. Because we all know that the technology works. We have many years of studies, we have many years of experience that show that robotic devices are beneficial for therapy. It gives you a consistent outcome, it gives you better outcomes, you can treat more patients with less therapists. But the awareness in Asia is still not there. And the biggest problem is that the technology is not injected yet in the educational programs or for future caregivers. So we spend a lot of energy there as well. We actually have our own university in the Netherlands with an international master on advanced equipment in rehabilitation. We do a lot of workshops. We organize summer winter schools where we bring Asians to Europe, the other way around as well. So So just to have that knowledge exchange. So that's a little bit the direction we're going. So more products, but with creative solutions and offerings to have good offerings in every country.
Right.
So what you offer to a US client will never work in Indonesia. So in the US you can have a business case on saving labor costs, which is no issue in Indonesia or Myanmar, for example.
I think it's very clear that the approach that you are taking as a group is extremely holistic, because it's not just about selling a device, right? You can have the best device, but if you're not equipped with the knowledge to use it to its best potential, it's never going to help anyone. So education, the technology, leapfrogging because of the easy acquisition, it's critical for the region. What would you say? What could you share with us on the home setting? You talk about assistive solutions, for example. Could you share with us a little bit more about your plans within this area?
Yeah, sure. So what I said, we want to cover the continuum of care. In Europe or US, that could be like home care. You bring some devices to home. They either be very cheap that you can buy it. We have solutions for that. Maybe a little bit more expensive that you can rent it out as an inpatient or outpatient facility, which is also interesting for hospitals because they can basically extend their service. That's what I mentioned, that patients are released earlier is also from an economic perspective for hospital not that interesting. They like to keep the patients, so that's why you see them developing outpatient clinics and renting out equipment. So that's one side of things. So it could be more the luxury of affording home therapy, but the same equipment can be used in countries for a completely different reason, and that is where you have countries like with a vast territory with a dense population, where rehab has to take place remote. So it is not about a luxury product for health tourism, but suddenly it is, you need to have a product in Inner Mongolia, for example, because there are no hospitals. So it could be the same technology, but applied very differently.
Now, I want to switch back to your technical background and your innovation. Where do you see the rehabilitation market in general in 5 and 10 years' time? What do you think will spur the next big disruption? We all know about connected devices and how important that is. But what is your thoughts?
Well, technology is definitely going to play a big role in rehabilitation. And unfortunately, rehabilitation is still quite conservative. It is mostly on the last thing on the mind of a hospital. Everything is more focused at surgery or MRIs or those kind of things that everybody really understands. Unfortunately, rehabilitation is still not an exact science. You still have an uncertain outcome when you treat the patient, and every patient is different. But where technology really is going to play a role is in bringing it all together. We talk a lot about artificial intelligence. So what if we could better predict an outcome? What can we do with that? It's very important for insurances. It's very important for the patient themselves to track their progress and set expectations. It's not only maybe from a good side, because sometimes we also recognize that there is no chance of rehabilitation. But in general, the technology will help us to predict better outcomes and generate better trainings, because you can learn. You have a big database from all parts of the world where you can learn what would be the best treatment for you. Like we have many males of the same age with the same incident, so what works best? That's one thing, the AI. And the other thing technology brings, like the AR, the VR, is the gamification of that market. Rehabilitation is about repetition. If you want to play, I always say, if you want to play the piano, you have to practice hard. Rehabilitation is the same. It doesn't happen when you're lying in a bed. You have to work very hard. And to make people to work very hard, you need motivation. That could be a game, but also, and that's another form of technology, bringing the social aspect. Challenge. You know, I'm a runner, I love Strava, but every morning I see a reminder that one of my friends run better or faster than me. I have to run as well. And that is where the technology and rehabilitation can be will play a role. And lastly, it's what you said is the connectivity. Like just do remote monitoring. And, is the patient doing the treatment right? Is he doing the exercises right? Because that's the worst thing that can happen, and we have seen that with the introduction of the Wii, for example, for rehabilitation. If you don't do the exercise right, it's even harmful for your rehabilitation.
And I think DIH as a whole, right, is set for this in terms of the technology transfer between Motec and Hocoma. Unification, for instance, is a great example. We personally, as a team, we hope that companies like yourself can help to push the boundaries, because I don't think it's so much an issue of money and equipment acquisition sometimes, because funding can be found, but it's more about understanding what it can do in the long run.
Yep.
And the one big change in the Asian market that we've seen is that 5-10 years ago, doctors, physicians, allied health nurses, they were going for the lowest cost item. And wherever the item was from, it was always, is it $1 more, is it $2 more per consumable items? But right now, the question is, what can it do for us in the long run? Mm-hmm. What about the technology, what about the service, what about the upgrades, right? So I think it's so critical.
It's all about awareness, and that's why we're investing so much in education. What is the quality of life worth? You know, if we have discussions about cancer or AIDS or whatever, we have hard numbers suddenly, then we can say it's 10,000 a day extending the life. And when we treat a 20-year-old to be independent again for the rest of his life, then suddenly it's way too expensive. And that is something we have to break. So it's all about the quality of life you can offer to humans.